All right, cool. Everyone, thank you for joining the Jefferson Educational Society's digital program, Legally Me, Navigating Paper Barriers to Employment Navigating Paper Barriers to Employment for the Transgender Application. I'm Raven Clark, Satellite Program Coordinator at the Jefferson. Today's event, I'd like to remind everyone tuning in that we are taking questions via the comment section on Facebook. If you have a question, please share it there and we'll work our way through as many comments as possible. I'd like to thank our speaker, Sarah Provencio, a Ramey Fellow graduate and Jefferson Civic Leadership Academy alum, for presenting her research findings today. I'd also like to thank Dr. Roth for moderating the conversation with me. Dr. Roth is a Jefferson Scholar in Residence, focusing on leadership, media, and social studies. So with this, I'd like to hand this over to you, Dr. Roth.
Thank you, Raven. Welcome everyone to our second Ramey Fellows our Ramey Fellows Scholarship presentation today with Sarah Provencio, Legally Me. Just a couple of brief words. I think most of the people watching this program are familiar with the program, with the Civic Leadership Academy, but just to get everyone a little bit up to speed, and for new listeners who might not be familiar with the Jefferson, of the many things the Jefferson does, one of its most important things is we sponsor what we call the Jefferson Civic Leadership Academy. It's a program for young and mid-career professionals, generally speaking 30 and 40 somethings, who are navigating their way through various and sundry organizations. And it's an exercise in learning about leadership in two ways. One, through direct involvement and observation of local leaders at the city, county, and borough and village level throughout Erie County. And then also at the request of some Civic Leadership Academy alumni, a couple of years ago, actually it's probably now more than a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we added a program we call the Ramey Fellows, which itself has two components. The Jefferson Civic Leadership Academy has that very hands-on, going around meeting people who are actually doing leadership in government and public service and social service agencies throughout Erie County. The Ramey Fellows, likewise, is a part of that, and we try to add to that two things. One, a little bit of a snapshot of leadership theory, a highly compressed experience in which the Ramey Fellows, who are in the program by invitation, interestingly enough, that's an important point. They've decided, those participants such as Sarah have decided they'd like to do a little bit more than just simply go meet other people and somewhat passively listen to people talk to them. They'd like to explore what some leadership theory and some thinking about what it means to be a leader, what is a leader, and how do leaders do what they do. And so in an admittedly highly compressed fashion, in about 4 hour-and-a-half sessions, we do a mini seminar, if you will, on that topic. And then we also do what Sarah is going to share with you today, Ramey Fellows, in order to complete it. And this year, I think we're going to have 5 or 6 people actually complete the whole process, the whole program. They do a bit of independent research. And as I said, as they do their independent research, they then make a live presentation, which is what we're doing right now. And in Sarah's case, in addition, and a couple of other of the fellows this year, their presentation or a version of it will be published by the Jefferson Educational Society. We had our first program 2 weeks ago when Corrine Thomas did a presentation on high-speed rail access in Erie County. We have 3 more coming later. Jessica Taylor will do one on co-working spaces and their economic development impact using Radius Co-work as a case study. Susanna Faulkner will be talking about instituting a minimum basic income in Erie County. Her title will be Poverty as a Policy Choice. And Jake Marsh will be doing something on working on Gen Z. And those will all be coming up in April. But right now, today, we have Sarah Provencio, who will present to you Legally Me, Navigating the Paper and Legal Barriers to Employment for the Transgender Applicant. I'm just going to give a very brief introduction to Sarah because I know she's embedded a brief self-introduction into her presentation. Sarah was born and raised in Corey, obviously in Erie County, and she returned to Corey after a 20-year career in law in California. It was in California where she met her wonderful husband, as she says, her 5-pound Chihuahua, and her awareness of social justice issues facing the LGBTQIA community. Sarah has recently been hired as the director of the Erie Area Redevelopment Authority, which she sees as an opportunity to support industry and sustain and foster life-sustaining jobs and employment opportunities in the Erie region. She believes in identifying and removing barriers to employment for those who wish to be employed, and which, of course, that is specifically what this program is about. And so with that, I'll have Sarah talk to you and tell you about how you remove employment barriers for the transgender community. Sarah?
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for your interest in Legally Me, navigating paper barriers to employment for the transgender job applicant. I will be sharing with you what led me to this topic and take you through a presentation designed for the transgender job applicant, and finally share with you where I see this project being put to use in the future. With that, let's begin. My name is Sarah Culver-Provencio, and I was born and raised here in Erie County. I left Pennsylvania for California after I got a BA in English from Geneva College in Beaver Falls. I graduated from Chapman University School of Law, and I did not come back to Erie County until it was time to start helping with aging family. I have an active license to practice law in Pennsylvania and in California. Having spent most of my life as an adult in Los Angeles, I was exposed to and became part of social justice movements that I had not seen here. I was part of a social justice focused church, and I volunteered with the local LGBT community center's legal clinic. This clinic helped with everything from domestic violence to immigration issues, but our most popular division was the legal name and gender change clinic. At each free monthly event, we would process about a dozen name and gender changes, where we would fill out and file the necessary forms for the applicants online. Shortly after my return to Erie, I met a young person who was transitioning. He was 20 years old and a high school graduate who had worked a string of minimum wage fast food and retail jobs. These, at this phase of his life, were appropriate for him, but he aspires to more, and because of his transition, he felt held back. He was well underway with his social and medical transition, but his legal documents that still reflected a feminine name were a burden to him. For me, it was important to be able to help this person out just based on my own personal connection. However, there are broader reasons why this kind of help is necessary. The transgender community suffers from considerably higher rates of unemployment and underemployment than the general population. According to transequality.org, more than 1 in 4 trans people have lost jobs due to bias, and more than 3 in 4 have suffered some form of workplace discrimination. In addition to that, refusal to hire, privacy violations, and harassment on the job are anecdotally reported by many members of the trans workforce. The causes of the underemployment turn on other factors as well, including that individual's own depression and anxiety. Adding to that depression and anxiety, in an already anxious time of interviewing, by having I-9 documents that don't match your gender presentation only makes things worse. But this is one category among all those soft factors that I was qualified to help with, thus this project. Allow me a brief moment to give you some definitions with which you might not be familiar if you've not been exposed to the LGBT culture. Gender identity and gender expression. Gender identity is your innermost sense of self as male, female, a blend of both, or neither. Gender expression is how you present yourself to the world in terms of your appearance. Appearance as expressed by social norms like haircut, clothes, voice, or behavior. So your identity is how you feel on the inside, and your expression is how you show yourself on the outside. These two may or may not match, but most people feel most comfortable when these two are in harmony. When these two don't match the legal documents you present to a prospective employer, that discrimination can of worms can get opened, and so can a whole mess of emotional issues that erode the applicant's confidence. Having consistent I-9 documents helps a trans person approach the prospective employer with confidence. There are countless online guides discussing your vital documents, as well as how to approach a job interview process as a trans person. These cover everything from interview tips to handshakes, your social security documents and other federal documents, state documents like ID or driver's license, birth certificates. The process is the same federally for all documents, of course, and the same within your state for your state documents, but it all starts with a court order. If you're a resident of Erie County, that means you need to know how to ask the Erie County Court for an order changing your name and gender. This is where online sources failed me when I was trying to help my young friend. It is also where I hope my project can step in to fill a gap in that information or remove this barrier to employment for the trans community. It was the immediate practicality of this project that attracted me to this as my Ramey Fellowship project. It's something that helps people right now. To find the steps myself, I relied heavily on court staff at the Erie County Court of Common Pleas. They guided me through what they would need in order to get the matter before a judge in the family court. The family court section of the county court is the division that handles name changes. If I hadn't been an attorney, I can't imagine navigating this process on my own. I'm sure it would have been next to impossible. So it is my goal with this project to make the legal process for name and gender change in Erie County both accessible and free of attorney fees. With that, I'd like to walk you through a quick version of my presentation aimed at the trans person seeking to make their own name and gender change. This presentation within a presentation will come with a link or a paper packet, and I believe one is live now, including the necessary forms and instructions in writing. We'll start with a legal change, the documents that will need to be changed after that, and then some practical advice for the interview phase. Changing your name and gender in the Erie courts is part one of the process. Getting a court order allows for the rest of the documents to be changed. But how do you get a court order? You have to ask the court for one, of course, but it's not that simple. Formally requesting anything from a court is called a petition, and it has to be done in writing. A petition blank form is included as part of the packet. You'll fill in the blanks and write in your current name and then what you want your name to be. There's a verification that states you are who you are and you're the one making the request on behalf of yourself and no one else. And it also states where you live and have recently lived so you can give proper notice. There's also a notice of hearing form that states when and where your hearing will take place, and a form that is called the order. That is the document the judge will sign to make things official. This order is the golden ticket to all of the rest of the documents you'll need. This is going to require multiple trips to the courthouse. I recommend that you go early in the morning and be prepared to use the parking meter app and pay $5. Courthouse security checks mean no weapons of any kind and no electronic devices inside the building. You'll complete the first two forms and bring blanks of the notice and order forms with you to room 205, the court administrator's office. This department assigns you your judge and will provide you with that judge's room number. You take those forms with you to that room number, the judge's chambers, and ask for the secretary there to assign you a hearing date. Your hearing date will be about 6 or 8 weeks out to allow you some time to complete the rest of the quests that you'll need to do in order to get the court order. They'll stamp your notice with a hearing date and can provide you with extra copies. If they don't, it's fine to make your own copies yourself. You'll need 1 copy for yourself and then 2 additional for publication. There's an optional step in here also. There are court filing fees that you're required to pay, and they're about $160. If you can't afford this, you have the option to ask the court for a fee waiver. You'll ask that same judge's secretary about the department handling those requests on that day. It changes from day to day. And plan to be present and ready to go at 8:30 in the morning to request your fee waiver. Forms for that are also available in the packet. You'll take those forms called a motion to the department handling motions for that day, check in with the clerk there, and wait your turn. to tell the judge why you need a fee waiver. Things like unexpected expenses, mental health issues, unemployment, and underemployment all play into the judge's decision, so be open and honest on the forms and when asked questions. The judge will try to be fair and reasonable and can decide to grant you a full fee waiver or partially reduce the fees. You will know right then and there the judge's decision and whatever the filing fee will be for you. Then take all your documents down to room 120, the prothonotari's office. Think of this office like the official filing window. These are the people who will take your documents and your money and make sure you've actually filed them with the court in a formal sense. The clerk will also give you a fingerprint card, which you might not even need, but they're fun to see and for the next quest in the process. And that's it for day one in the courthouse. The next quest that can be done on the same day as your courthouse trip, if you like, is you can make arrangements to publish your notice of hearing. You're required to publish in 2 newspapers. Use the Erie Times and the Erie County Bar Association's legal journal. Contact information for both of these is provided in the packet, and each of these organizations has their own fees of about $100 each, and there is no fee waiver available for those. They'll print the notice of hearing in their legal ads section, and then in about 3 weeks, they'll send you proof that it has been published, called proof of publication. Hold on to those proofs of publication from each paper because you'll be taking them with you on your second trip to the courthouse. But wait, there's more. Before you go back to file these proofs of publication, you'll need to get fingerprinted. You can do this the same day as you did your filing, but it doesn't have to be on that day. I would just recommend getting it done sooner than later, just to keep your process moving forward. For this quest, you'll take your blank fingerprint card and current ID and probably a friend with you to your local state police barracks. This friend is just for your own peace of mind, since you may be waiting for quite a while and waiting in what you may find to be an uncomfortable environment. You probably won't need the fingerprint card itself, but it's good to have it with you just in case, since the prints are usually done digitally and they're going to provide you with a printout anyways. There is no fee for this service, but it may take some time. This is a community service and it is not a priority to actual law enforcement work, and there's no appointment system. The good news is, though, that after this, you're on to your next step. This means a second trip to the courthouse with your completed fingerprints and the proofs of publication from Erie Times and Legal Journal. On this trip, you'll go back to room 120, the prothonotary's office, the filing window, and they'll collect those documents from you and officially file them with the court. And now we wait until the day of your hearing. In between now and the hearing date, the prothonotary's office does a criminal records check on you and a search for any financial liens or judgments against you. The day of the hearing is your big day. Friends and family may attend. Show up early to your hearing date, even if that means you have to sit in the hallway for a while before things get started. I would recommend that you dress like you're going to an interview for an office job and have your guests dress nicely too. The judge will swear you in and ask just some basic questions. If you're scheduled for first thing in the morning, you might be doing a Pledge of Allegiance also. If any criminal history, active probation, or judgments have come up, the judge will ask you about them. And if you're making your name change in an attempt to outrun your responsibilities, your answer will need to be no. The judge will ask that you confirm your present name and to spell out what you want your name to be, and might even ask, are you sure? The reason is because once this is done, it's done, and the process to do a second time is considerably more involved. The whole thing should run about 30 minutes, and when it's all done, the judge signs your order, your golden ticket, and makes extra copies for you. If they ask you how many, I would recommend asking for 4 or 5 copies, because if you go later to request them from the office, they'll charge you for each one. So get 4 or 5 while you're there and they're covered. Take one and keep it in a safe place forever and ever. where it won't get damaged or lost. And now that you have your order, or as I like to call it, your golden ticket, you can proceed with the rest of your life documents. This is where the real legwork takes place. Let's walk through how to get your Social Security, birth certificate, and driver's license or ID changed. Your Social Security card, single form called an SS5, and it can be found online. You do need to print a hard copy and mail it out. It can't be completed online. It's free of charge. The instructions on the form are easy to follow, and you'll have a new Social Security card by mail in about 1 month. For your birth certificate in Pennsylvania, you'll find the forms online as well. You will need your original birth certificate or a state-provided reprint of it and a copy of your government-issued photo ID. It doesn't matter if the ID reflects new name or old name. You'll also need a letter from your doctor on letterhead, and there are instructions for that in the packet. There's a filing fee of $20 and a couple of signatures that will require notarization, so be prepared with about $10 for that as well. Pennsylvania is going to take about 3 months to process this request by mail, and a new birth certificate with a new name and gender will appear in your mailbox soon. Your Pennsylvania driver's license or ID card is a fun one, and it's one you can accomplish same day once you get that golden ticket. You could literally go directly from your court hearing with your order and DMV forms to the driver's license center and walk out with your new license. The forms are available online and the fee is $30. There's one form for name and one form for gender. You'll get your new driver's license issued on the spot. In all, the process takes about 5 months to complete from the initial filing with the court until you receive your birth certificate. You should expect to spend around $450 in fees, and always be prepared with paper checks since most government agencies don't accept cards. As always, if you have questions during this process, ask court staff or consult with an attorney. The courthouse employees aren't allowed to give legal advice, but they are helpful in telling you about forms, fees, and procedures. With the court's order, you can make changes to all of your other accounts. A good way to catalog the changes is to go through the cards in your wallet and start with your bank card, then your credit card, then your car insurance, and on down the line until even your grocery discount card is up to date. For your employer, you're going to want to contact your human resources department, and for your school, you're going to want to contact your student records office. Consider reaching out to past employers and past schools so that if you're using them for a reference at a new prospect, or if they're verifying your school history, everyone is on the same page as to who you are on paper. For utilities, credit cards, and banks, use the toll-free customer service numbers that are usually on the backs of the cards. They'll escalate you to a specific department, and that department will request a copy of your name change order, the golden ticket. Expect them to be polite and professional, because this is the same procedure people do for changes of name because of marriage, divorce, or adoption. Let's talk about the job interview. How to approach the inappropriate interview question. There are several categories of questions that an employer may not legally ask. You should research the company you're applying to and ask questions about the company culture. Use LinkedIn to look at posts by the company. Use other social media to look at posts by the interviewers. Check employee reviews on sites like Glassdoor. Watch for cues as to whether these people might ask inappropriate questions and be prepared with your reply. Gender questions. It is illegal to ask what your gender is. If faced with this, consider responding with a question like, what is the relationship of my gender to this position? Family status. They can ask about your ability to work certain hours. They can also ask how long you envision yourself in this role. They can't ask about your marital status or whether you have kids or are pregnant or plan to be. Race, ethnicity, national origin, color, birthplace, ancestry. Where are you from? Might seem innocuous, but be careful. This might be steering towards your national origin. consider answering the city from which you traveled to arrive there. Age. When did you graduate is just as bad as how old are you? Again, go back to answering by asking the relevance of the question. If pressed, my age won't be an issue as to my performance. Religion. They can ask if you're available to work on certain days of the week. They cannot ask what holidays you observe or what faith you claim. Disability. They can ask if you can perform the job duties. They can also ask if you will require any accommodations in order to perform the job duties, and if so, what accommodations you may need. You can and should answer these questions honestly. They can't ask about your medical diagnoses, though. To sum up the job interview approach, avoid saying, mind your own business, and make your default answer when asked something illegal. This won't have any bearing on my ability to perform this role. That concludes my presentation of the name and gender change packet, and anyone should be able to follow the instructions in the packet and get things done. With that, I can step back into my role, presenting to all of you as a Jefferson audience. A link to these materials is going to be available on the Jefferson's website. It could easily become its own website, and paper copies in booklet form can be made available at medical and mental health service offices assisting the trans community. And that's all that I have for you today.
Thank you, Sarah. That was very informative, and one of the really strong Ramey presentations. I applaud you and I thank you. I would just add to what Sarah said that the Jefferson will be publishing a version of this presentation as a booklet, or at least that's the current planning, and also I believe establishing a link on the Jefferson website where you can find a PDF version of it to download. But that is still all in process. So there was such a wealth of information. It's important to realize that we are live streaming this on Facebook right now. Those of you who are watching obviously know that because you're watching it on Facebook, but it will be posted to the Jefferson's Facebook page, and you can go back and watch it multiple times. And if there are people that you know or think you know, or people you know who you think might benefit from this, you can also tell them to go see it on the Jefferson Facebook page. But because there is so much information, and it's important information in a very concrete, specific, sequential way, you should know that you can watch this repeatedly on the Jefferson Facebook page and take notes, et cetera, et cetera. I thought it was very informative, Sarah. There are a couple of questions that you and I had talked about that I'd like to ask you, because they may be questions that someone in the audience is thinking about. One is, and I'd like you to explain, if you would, for the audience, in case there's people in the audience that don't know what we mean by this. Does Pennsylvania allow for an X gender marker?
Yes. Your gender marker is where it says on your driver's license or your birth certificate or your passport, male, female. And presently, a number of states allow for X, which would indicate a person who does not wish to designate male or female, doesn't want to make that selection, and oftentimes we would refer to that person as a non-binary person who does not want to be M or F, and in place of that, the X is the gender marker. And Pennsylvania does allow for that.
And Pennsylvania does do that.
Yes. And the
Excellent.
same process applies. So the forms that are in the packet and the process that you would use to designate F, M, or X is all the same.
Excellent. You made the comment at the very beginning that in terms of this process and dealing with federal documents, of course, that's national because you're dealing with the federal government. So wherever you might happen to be, it's going to be a similar process, similar documents, not similar, excuse me, identical process, identical documents. But when we get to the state level, and then within the state, it varies. So we do have people, given where Erie is located, there are Jeffersonians who live in Ohio and New York. Is the process the same there, or it would actually have to be looked at specifically to those two states?
It's going to have to be looked at specifically to those two states because each state court system has its own rules and regulations for how to do the processes.
Okay.
As far as I understand, there are processes in every state to do it, but they will vary between state and state.
Now, then, and within state, I think you mentioned to me in one of our conversations as you were preparing this, that it actually even changes a wee bit county to county. So for example, someone who might be watching this program on Facebook, but actually lives in Warren County or lives in Crawford County, McCain County, fill in the blank, it could be a slightly different process, correct?
It could be things like the room numbers that you're going to report to file your different documents are going to change, things like that. The counties may also have individual forms that are different. While the state law stays the same in general as to how to do it, there are going to be procedural things that change from location to location by county. And I would love to have some volunteer attorneys who are experienced in Crawford County or Warren County to pick up where I left off and see if we can build out the packet to include different counties worth of information.
If there are any if there are any attorneys who happen by some chance to be watching this, or if someone is going to direct an attorney who lives and works in Warren or Crawford or McCain or Mercer or whatever county who would like to help Sarah, I'll leave it up to Sarah whether she'd give her contact information now, but you could have that person call Raven at the Jefferson Educational Society and we would forward it to Sarah.
Perfect.
As far as we talked about state to state, is there any way to unify the process?
I don't think so. I don't think so, not at this time, just because the states tend to be independent and territorial of their own. So I don't see one way to do it for all.
And particularly in our fractious times, that's probably truer than either of us would like it to be. In terms of this book, the publication, I'm going to call it a publication, and in the packets that will be being constructed, where do you envision them being distributed so that people will find them? And I got to quickly add, they're not there yet, so don't go down there tomorrow or this afternoon. But where would you like the Jefferson to help you make sure these packets are placed?
I envision them being at maybe an LGBT friendly church or medical office, places of that nature. I don't think that Erie has an LGBT community center per se yet, but organizations like that might be willing to sort of host a stack of papers for us.
Mhm.
Excellent. Is there anything you'd like to add, Sarah, or any question I haven't asked that you might think? And Raven, do we have any questions from the audience?
I have a question. So
Okay.
Sarah, in your research, which states would you say would be the easiest and which would be the most difficult, and why?
I spent my time just learning how to do Erie counties.
Mhm.
The only other state I've actually done them in is when I was a volunteer at the clinic in California. So in California, it was pretty straightforward. They had an online filing system, so you didn't have to go from room to room and pay the fee here and do this there. It was a little bit more streamlined in California, but I think that's just because of the volume of people they have going through doing that over and over again. So I didn't find it to be terribly difficult in Pennsylvania once I learned it, but just figuring out how to do it was the hard part. And that's why I decided that this project was necessary, because there wasn't like an online guide to just walk through, you're going to need these forms and these steps and things like that. So that's how we got here.
I'm going to ask, I think I know the answer to this question, but it's related to Raven's question, and it didn't occur to me during the presentation. One cannot do this, or let me phrase it the other way around. One can only do this in the state in which you are resident.
Right. As in your county, in fact.
Oh,
You're a
okay.
county taxpayer and you live in this county, and the court services are available to the residents of the county.
So if
So
I'm
if
a
I live in
resident
Warren
of
County,
Erie
I do
County,
my
just,
legal stuff in Warren County.
just to clarify, yeah. Okay, so if I'm a resident of Erie County, Pennsylvania, the short answer is the only place I can do this, the legal process, is in Erie County, Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's a self-evident.
That is accurate,
Well,
yes.
I guess it's a self-evident question, but perhaps not to some people. I don't know. It's really a very informative presentation, Sarah. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. You've done a very thorough and precise job.
I think that covers everything from my notes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm set. Thank you.
Well, I think then, again, to the people watching, and whether you're watching us today in real time or you're watching this on the Jefferson Facebook page in the future, you can always post questions to the Jefferson Facebook page. Or you could, since I'm available, not that I couldn't answer the question, all I could do is forward them to Sarah. If you had a question, you could forward them to me at roth@jeserie.org. I will not presume to answer them for fear of giving the wrong answer. I would simply forward them to Sarah, and she can take it from there. But you can find questions. If you are watching it on Facebook at a future time, you still have the ability to post questions there, and we'll get those questions to Sarah, and we'll get you an answer of some sort, hopefully a useful answer. And if it comes from Sarah, I know it'll be a useful answer. But so I would like to thank Sarah for that, and I would like to thank our audience for watching us and tuning into this. This is a very important topic, and for those in the audience for whom this is actually very pertinent, stay tuned, not today, literally stay tuned, but notice that in the future, the Jefferson will be posting a published version of this presentation in booklet and packet form to their website, and working with Sarah to see that it's distributed so that people can get access to this important information. So thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your research and your resources with us today. It was very informational. If people have more questions, like Dr. Roth said, you can email me at Clark, CLARK @jeserie.org. And I will be able to forward that to Sarah or Dr. Roth. And of course, thank you to all of those who tuned in. These programs and discussions and the exchange of information and ideas wouldn't be possible without you. Folks, for more information about the JES, including how to register for additional events, please visit jes.org, jeserie.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where this video will be also posted later on, as well as our website. For the Jefferson Educational Society, I'm Raven Clark. Thanks for listening and learning with us.
Thank you, Raven. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.